Hello and good morning. My name's Shamash, author of Mindfulness for Dummies, and today I'm talking about transparency and what inner transparency means rather than just what we normally think about in terms of transparency in the world. So, I've been reflecting on transparency, and the reason I'm doing this and sharing my ideas about it is because it's World Values Month, and I'm going through a different value every day. First day was freedom. 2nd of October, I talked, what did I talk about? Responsibility. And so today's transparency. And as I've been reflecting this morning on transparency and what it means to be transparent, I started thinking about hang on a minute. You know, in the normal outer world, we value transparency for people like politicians or business people to be honest and transparent about what they're doing, what their motivations are. It could be to do with their finances or their other interests. Um, One thing that for some reason pops into my mind is that our chief scientific officer here in the UK has lots and lots of stocks and shares in a pharmaceutical company, and he's part of the people that are making decisions about which company will be making vaccines for the UK. So there's an example where transparency is really important because we don't want people to be influenced in the wrong way. Anyway, before we talk about outer transparency, for each and every one of us, I think inner transparency is important. And we can cultivate inner transparency by becoming aware of the kind of thoughts that we're having, the kind of emotions that we're going through, how we feel about our situation in our lives, how we feel about ourselves. And we don't necessarily have to immediately share that with everyone to be a transparent person or to practice transparency, I think. And I feel there's different levels to it. So the first level of transparency is learning to be honest with ourselves and about how we're feeling and what we're going through. Um, Within all this context, I think it's very important for us to remember, as people who are into mindfulness and meditation and stuff like that, is that we are not our emotions and we are not our thoughts. Because if we fully identify with our emotions and thoughts, it can cause a lot of problems. And that is because our feelings are always changing and our thoughts are always changing. And they're not always an exact reflection of who we are. So we may not be feeling really good. Like at the moment, it's raining a lot. Some of you may be enjoying that rain a lot. Some of you may be really struggling with that, and it may be causing a lot of internal weather challenges for you. And you can block your inner transparency and pretend that, oh no, it's not affecting my feelings at all. Uh, I'm fine. You can pretend to do that, or you can begin by turning your attention inwards and being honest with yourself about how you're feeling. We have a whole rainbow of emotions, and part of what mindfulness is all about is being honest with ourselves about how we're feeling. So I would say that's step one, and that is probably one of the hardest steps. It's very easy for us to deny how we're feeling or what thoughts are coming up for us, and it's a form of a defense mechanism because we don't want to own up to the fact that there may be some difficulties or challenges going on within us and we don't want to deal with it. And I can understand that. But that's step one. And what helps step one, as I said, is remembering that you are not your feelings and you are not your thoughts. By identifying with the observer self, the witness, consciousness, awareness, there's a sense of freedom there. And so you've got a bit of a space between you and your feelings. And so you can be a bit more honest and transparent about how you're feeling. Step two, I would say, is some sort of creative act to express that. And I would say that's the next level of transparency. And so you may do that. A lot of people do that through journaling. And so again, you don't have to necessarily share that with anyone else. It can be a complete secret. And you can just write down your thoughts, whether it's digitally or on a piece of paper and a pen. You can decide. You can do it through artwork, you can do it through gardening, perhaps. I don't know, there's probably an infinite number of different creative ways of expressing how you're feeling. And that is, I would say, a step towards transparency. Probably not the way people would normally define it. But when you're talking about inner transparency, I would say that's the next step. Now, that creative act that you do, you may keep it for yourself, and that's fine, or burn it. or you may want to share it with others. And there's another level of transparency. I wouldn't say that's necessarily good or bad, but that very process of creation or creating something, having observed something within yourself that may be a challenging experience or feeling or thoughts or situation that you're in, I think there is a sense of a step towards freedom there, which I think is wonderful. And I think part of uh, all the creative acts that came out of the lockdown experience that we had, and it happened in the UK, probably worldwide, was to express the different feelings that people were going through and the fact that they had the space and time to do that as well. So there's that level of transparency. And then you're starting to step towards what the classical definitions of being a transparent person would be, which would be to share it perhaps with some friend or family member, a counselor or a therapist, and then even more wider friends and family, and even on the stage of somewhere like the internet like this, or publicly if you're a public figure, even to a wider audience. But I think we do need to be careful about how much we share all the time as well. I mean, there's a bit of an idea, I would say, that people believe that there's like an ideal where we should be totally transparent and sharing everything all the time. There's a balance to be had too, right? Some things you may want to just share in a creative way or share in a journal, and some things you may want to share with another person, and some people things you may want to share more widely. And I think that's okay. It's okay to share as much or as little as you wish. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide. Um, but that first level, that first step, I think is particularly important for us all, which is to remember that there's a part of us which is the observer of our experiences, the awareness itself, which is unchanging, which connects us all, which brings this sense of oneness. And I think so many people have this intuitive sense that there is this oneness that connects us all, and there is that which is behind our thoughts and emotions that connects us. So tuning into that, appreciating that, remembering that, and then being as honest as with ourselves as possible as we become aware of our situations, our thoughts, our feelings that are coming up for us, whether they're positive, negative, and then also taking that next step of uh, sharing it at least with yourself. So being transparent with yourself and journaling, drawing, writing, dancing, playing, however you want to express that. Could be even through movement as well. Dance like no one's watching, as they say. So yeah, that's my thoughts on transparency. I'd love to hear what you think about what transparency means for you, particularly this idea of inner transparency. I've never come across that concept before, but I suppose people would call it as being honest with yourself. But it's different to that. It's about becoming aware of what's going on and then at least expressing it to yourself in a way that helps you to process it. Anyway, appreciate you popping in and listening in. Uh, and yeah, if you enjoyed this, then feel free to share it. But love to hear your comments on it too. I do read all the comments that I can afterwards as well. Have a wonderful day and transparent one. I'm glad my glasses are transparent. Otherwise, I don't see anything. There's some transparency value there. All right, guys, have a good one.